Hi, everyone. Welcome to Write Our Way, which will be hosted by fictional writer Patrick Starks. If you have not read the description below, these podcast discussions will be surrounded around writing short stories and novels, discussions of storytelling through film, using comparisons from the 80s and the current movies we see today, as well as discussions about how these movies impact our lives, or if not, why. If you are a writer, a reader, or neither of the two, who is looking for some inspiration, a little motivation, something that will get you excited about writing, something that will help you develop and feel confident in your own style, then you have come to the right place. My friends, welcome to Write Our Way.
Hello, welcome. My name is Patrick Starks, and welcome to Write Our Way. Today we're going to be talking about a few writing tips that could help you write better, essentially. One of the writing tips right off the bat, everyone, is reading. Reading is very essential to writing. In order to write better, you're going to need to know how the writing is written. So in order to know how it's written, one must pick up a book and read it. It's just flat out. I don't know any other way to do it. Well, then again, there are other ways to do it, which we're going to talk about, which are like different creative spaces, but definitely reading is going to be one of the main things you're going to want to do as a writer to get better. It can be a whole bunch of authors. It could be like one of your favorite authors. It could be an author that you don't even know. Either way, you want to like study these writers, essentially not become them or sound like them, as we talked about, as I've talked about with people before, as far as like, making sure that you have your own voice when you're writing. You don't want to sound like somebody else. You want to sound like yourself. You're the narrator, so you want to sound like how or the way you would tell the story. So that's just one of the biggest things about writing you're going to want to do, and the only way to do that is by reading. And so with reading, you're going to want to look at a lot of the formatting, like the sentences, how they're structured. I think descriptions are very important when writing, when you're going to be telling a story and like describing a scene. A lot of metaphors, not necessarily a whole bunch of metaphors, but enough to give somebody a good idea of like what you're talking about and kind of put them in the story, Some stories I read, they can be so bland because they're missing that little bit of description of the scene. And that's so vital to writing a story. And you want to make sure that you're doing that like the whole nine. Should you do it every scene? I am not sure on that. I don't think so. I know when I'm writing, I don't necessarily describe every scene because some scenes you just want to get straight to the point. You don't want to spend too much time like poetically describing how the person sits in a chair and how their coffee fell over the table. It's like the coffee cup fell over the table. You don't have to be like the coffee cup fell over the table and slowly drips like rivers down the floor. You don't have to do. I mean, there's moments for that, but some moments aren't all for that. So you just want to be careful about that. And so yeah, reading, guys. Want to read so you can get a better understanding of how those metaphors and how the sentences are structured and formatted so you can tell your story in a way that you would like to, but articulate in a way where the reader can understand it and feel immersed in it and feel like they understand the environment that the character is in. So reading. So I think I was going to talk about the creative spaces. So creative spaces is another important writing tip I would recommend to a lot of you guys. I mean, you want to read, but sometimes, you get tired of reading. You get tired of writing. And sometimes you just have a brain fart and you need to get out and get some inspiration. For me, I highly recommend, I know it works for me, movies. Love my Marvel movies and all my like superhero movies and even just like regular drama movies, just regular suspense movies. They can give you some good ideas of like what kind of story you want to write and like the type of characters you want to make part of that story. And video games is another big thing for writing stories as well. Video games people sleep on, I feel. Video games have a lot of in-depth stories, like beautiful stories. I don't know who these writers are for in the gaming industry, but kudos to them. They are killing the game. They have so many great stories. I mean, I can go off from like The Witcher 3. When I play that, beautiful story. If you're really into mythology, I recommend you check out like God of War series, another video game that has a really, really great story. But I mean, if you're going to start from the newest one, I think it's a good start still because it still has a story that connects you to like the past. But if you start from like God of War 1 all the way to the most recent one, you will definitely be surprised. And so video games is definitely another good recommendation as far as writing tips, just getting out of the brain fart and being able to think creatively. Another one would be create like a bucket list. This is something I do a lot. Like sometimes when I have ideas about something and I don't want to write about it at that very moment, I'll create like little sticky tabs and I'll put it in a bucket. And one day when I'm having a brain fart, I'll just shake it up and pull out a random sticky note. And then when I pull it out, you'll be amazed. You're like, oh crap, that's a good idea. Like I should write about that. And I think it's very important as writers to be very experimental. You definitely want to not be afraid to try ideas that you kind of threw in the back burner. I mean, those ideas came up for a reason. So I'd feel like they would be a good story for you since they came up in your head. You probably had a really great idea about it, or you might have had a great character in mind for it, and you just don't want to let those ideas go to waste. So I highly recommend putting in a bucket list, save them for a rainy day, for when you're having those brain farts. And then have fun with writing, guys. Like, don't let it stress you out. Be excited about the journey, be excited about your characters, and be excited to see them develop. I think the most beautiful thing about writing is just seeing your characters develop throughout your story, especially when you're writing books. I mean, I mostly write short stories, but when I write books, there's something beautiful about it because when you're writing books, you really see that character go on this really, really long journey and you see them develop. And you see all the trials and tribulations they go through and all the people and all the interactions they make that help them grow into being this superhero. And it's just such a beautiful thing when you see that. And I think it's so essential to our lives too. Like it's very relatable to our everyday lives. Like we all go through trials and tribulations. And, I could go down a whole list of things I've been through in my life that have gotten me to this point. And so when you see that in a character, it's very realistic and it feels very close to home, and it brings people closer to your story when you can do that. And so that'd probably lead me into the next tip would be just, making sure that the story is close to realism as possible. You definitely want to make sure your audience feels connected. There are some stories that I have found that have been a little too, too far left field. Like it's like way, way far from realism. And I don't mean like realism to the point like that there's no way the person can fly and stuff like that. We all know that. People aren't like out here with laser beam eyes, but we're talking about like on a deeper level emotionally, like how that hero or villain feels and how they deal with life and the people around them. We're talking more on an emotional standpoint versus the external. So be careful not to get those two confused. I know a lot of people that can get that confused, and it's not even the same thing. It's definitely different. But yeah, I would say realism. Just keep it as close to realism as possible. Keep it close to your heart because people will see it and they'll feel a little bit more touched about it when they see that it's coming from you, like from the heart, and those characters are coming from a heart. And yeah, it'll just gravitate more. Another writing tip I'd recommend would probably be just getting up in the morning. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you feel the same, but I know for me, I'm more of a morning writer. Like if I wait later in the day, I just don't feel like writing. Like I emotionally just can't get into it deep enough to really have that spark. In the morning is like your mind's fresh. You're not really thinking about too much, especially if you have free time. Like I'm just talking in general on your days off. Or like on a weekend, if you have your weekends off, any day that you have off, you want to just kind of open up a window for about an hour, maybe 2 hours, however much time you need to really use that as a way of taking advantage of your creativity. Because I think there's a study on that actually where you are the most creative in the morning because as the day goes, you run out of juices. And I'm telling you, energy drinks, not really healthy and not going to get you there. And you can drink as much coffee as you want, still ain't going to work. Water, maybe a little H2O. that always works best. Even some tea or something like that. But definitely whatever works for you guys as far as creativity, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, evening. I take advantage of that because that's where you're really gonna come up with the best material for your writing. Don't try to write when you're not in the mood. I mean, if you're not in the mood, you're just not in the mood. Don't try to force yourself or pressure yourself because what that does is that just puts a bad taste in your mouth. Writing shouldn't feel shitty. if you're exhausted with your story, then you need to change your story or do it when you're not exhausted. It's going to be one of the two. It's either your story, just you're in denial. It sucks. You're not feeling it. You're just way too tired and you just need some sleep, some energy, some little recovery to bounce back from that. But, love to hear what you guys' process is. What's the best time for you to write? I think that's always cool to see some people hear about when they write and what's the best time for them. I have some friends that actually write super late at night, probably like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Just like, how do you guys do it? It's way, way too late. I'm trying to go to work. I'm trying to get some sleep so I can go to work and come back, and do my writing and whatnot. I just don't have the time for it to stay up that late. Even on the weekends, like on my days off, I don't have time. I do have the time, but it's just, who does that? 2 a.m. No offense. It's rough. And last but not least, guys, the one thing I will have to say about for writing tips is exercise. Stretch. These are going to be essential for you as a writer, or just not even just a writer, as a human freaking being in general. You're going to feel a lot more better and a lot more motivated and energetic to do the things you love to do when your body is limber, like loose, and your heart's pumping and you're energetic, you're hydrated, and you're feeling good about the day. You've written in your journal, you're feeling pretty positive. You've written down a few things that you're positive about that day, and you want to make sure that you just exercise all that tension, all that stress out, so that you can focus on what you do best. And what you do best, my friends, is writing. So I wish you all the best, and I will keep pumping out some of these writing tips. Love to hear some of you guys' writing tips. And stay tuned for the next episode. Not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but it will be something juicy and fun, as it always is. And so I will talk to you guys soon, and have a wonderful, have a beautiful rest of your evening.
Hope you all enjoyed and had something to take away from today's discussion. To find out more about our lovely host, Patrick Starks, and even some of his writing works, go to www.paycark.com. That's www.paycark.com. Stay tuned for the next episode of Write Our Way, and have yourself a fantastic day.